Today, our focus is on putting into action and into practice everything we have learned thus far to show you how easy, quick, and delicious and beautiful whole food plant-based eating can be. And so I will take you through a typical day of what a whole food plant-based lifestyle can look like. Now remember, this is just one example of so many. Really, I would almost say an infinite amount of potential and possibilities. And so use this example just to see what a typical day could look like. But know that as you learn and apply how to eat whole food plant-based in your life, you will have many variations. And so feel free to adapt as you see fit for your personal health, weight, and wellness needs. When thinking of what to put together and share with you for this class, I thought one of the most effective ways would be to share with you what a typical day in my life would look like, seeing that I eat based on the whole food plant-based lifestyle. And you may recall from the very first lesson, I mentioned to you that I'm extremely passionate, not just to teach about this, but to actually live it. Because every single mealtime is a chance for me to work with Mother Nature's best gifts that can fuel my body right, nourish it optimally, and make me feel so good. And so it's my pleasure to share with you how I would approach a typical whole food plant-based day in my life. So let's start with breakfast. At least 5 of the 7 days of the week, my day starts with a green smoothie. And you've heard me talk about green smoothies several times in this course already. Again, if you want a full foundation of the power of green smoothies, I recommend my course, The Essentials of Green Smoothies, that you can also find here, which will give you the details of why I'm so passionate and why these are so powerful for optimizing our health and weight. And so a typical smoothie for me will consist of putting together 2 fruits, typically a banana and 1 other fruit. Both of these fruits will either be fresh or one will be fresh and one will be frozen. I try to make sure that I pick seasonal choices as much as possible, aside from those bananas, which are a staple in my diet year-round. I will then add to my personal green smoothie 2 tablespoons of a seed, specifically one of those powerful seeds that we talked about in our lesson about seeds. My main 2 choices for my smoothies are flax seeds and chia seeds. Depending on the time of year, I may also add a teaspoon to a tablespoon of some particular superfood, such as ashwagandha or maca and similar ones. And finally, come the greens, whether it be kale or Swiss chard or dandelion, spinach, collard greens, any greens that I can get my hand on, get regularly rotated throughout my green smoothies. I will then add to this some water and blend away. I never add any ice cubes. That's just a personal choice, especially if I have frozen fruits. That makes it chilled enough already. And so this is just my combination of a green smoothie. Remember, you can modify and adapt to make your own healthy, wholesome, whole meal versions as you see fit. Now for me, this would typically be my breakfast, and I make sure simply to drink 2 cups of this whole meal green smoothie. At yet other times, my breakfast may consist of a hot grain bowl or some Ezekiel bread, or similar optimally healthy meal options as we talked about in our previous lesson. For lunch, I would typically have a whole meal salad. This is where I get out a different type of leafy green than I've added into my morning green smoothie, and will add to that leafy green at least 3 other vegetables. If they are small, such as a small tomato, small avocado, small pepper, I will add in the whole thing. And if they are on the larger side, I would typically use half of them. I will then add in a cooked bean that I have on hand, typically about 4 to 6 tablespoons, and I will finish my salad off with an abundance of different herbs and spices, as well as freshly squeezed lemon juice or apple cider or balsamic vinegar. These wholemeal salads are outstanding in flavors and textures, and I know I can count on them for providing me the highest level of nutrient density, as well as they are extremely filling. So simply be sure to choose enough of a variety of ingredients and eat enough per your metabolic health and weight needs. When it comes to dinner, this is when I most enjoy having a high starch, wholesome food like a potato or a grain or a yam. The pattern for many of my veggie-based and grain mixes is very similar. I would take about 3 different vegetables and ones that I most enjoy eating not fully raw, but perhaps slightly steamed or lightly cooked. This would include vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, eggplant, etc. And many of these mixed dinner dishes include for me also a type of mushroom. Sometimes I am able to get fresh local mushrooms, even wild mushrooms. At other times, I depend on whatever selection is available at the grocery store. And so I would begin by cooking my mushrooms first, as they typically take the longest, and allow them to create their own juices. Then I would add in the longest cooking vegetables first, like hard vegetables like cauliflower, to steam as I cover the mixture with a lid. I would then add the shortest or fastest cooking vegetables at the very end. And typical cooking time for a mixture of mushrooms and vegetables like this is about 5 to 10 minutes, no more. So again, wholesome, healthy, whole food plant-based meals can be easily ready in 15 minutes or so. On days that I don't have a grain already cooked and available to be added to my veggie and mushroom mix, I would just cook it fresh as is. Otherwise, as my vegetables and mushrooms are steaming or sauteing, I would be cooking potatoes or yams. And the great news here is that potatoes and or yams all cook in less than 10 to 15 minutes. That's all it takes. And then you can add them along with your veggies and or mushrooms. I would add in a variety of herbs and spices, or perhaps make one of my delicious homemade whole food signature sauces. Whether it's cilantro-based or ginger-based, whether it's creamy or whether it's more like a vinaigrette, and I may mix that into the mushroom and veggie dish or simply drizzle it on top after. And that's it. When it comes to snacks, I usually have 1 to 2 snacks per day, depending on the season, depending on what kind of meals I have that day, whether they are larger, smaller, heavier, or lighter. And so this is where, again, you have to always adapt a whole food plant-based diet, or really anytime you're eating anything, to your particular needs, your environment, and such. Based on my metabolic needs, I always have a mid-morning snack and sometimes may have an afternoon snack. My most usual snacks are made of fresh or dried fruits and nuts. Now, I may just eat the fruit as is, or I may chop it up. When it comes to nuts, I may soak a handful or a serving and have them as is, or turn them into some kind of a treat like a square, a bar, or a ball, which are so fun to make and so delicious to eat. When I want a more special snack or a treat, I will make one of the mimic cakes that I mentioned to you in the previous lesson. These can be seasonal based on fruits like strawberries, blueberries, or really any time of the year based on chocolate. And for those hotter times of the year, my most typical snack is a fruit-based ice cream. And these are so quick and easy to make at home, literally within a few minutes, as long as you have a high-powered blender and some frozen fruits. If you don't, you can still make them by just freezing the fresh fruit after blending it for a few hours in the freezer. And these can be made to be the flavor of the fruit itself, or you can turn them into vanilla or chocolate peanut butter-based flavors as well. And it can be as simple as that. And I know that I'm nourishing my body with a variety and abundance of vegetables daily, which, remember we said, is the essence of optimizing your whole food plant-based lifestyle, as well as those fruits, and including grains and beans throughout the day as I see best fit for my personal metabolic health and weight needs, and then giving a sprinkle or a touch of nuts and seeds throughout the day, and including some of those other foods as I see most appropriate depending on the type of meal I'm making. So that's, as I mentioned to you, just one version of what a typical day in a whole food plant-based lifestyle can look like. And depending on your personal needs, you are free to change, modify, and make it as diverse as you like. You can, remember, take some of these foods to work with you. You can use them as leftovers, but as much as possible, the more you prepare or cook your food fresh and consume it in its most freshest form, the more you're going to benefit even more from its nutritional density and integrity.